Hello friends, Chris Evans here with Guthrie News Page and Guthrie Sports Page, here to tell you about a brand new segment called The Roundup. It's coming to GTV 20 and social media. We'll talk with those who represent our city, county, and state. Each month I'll sit down with Republican Senator A.J. Griffin, who represents District number 20, Republican House of Representative John Pfeiffer, who represents District 38, and also Republican House of Representative Jason Murphey, who represents District number 31. Our first installment will start airing Tuesday, March 15th, but before that, we wanted you to get to know who represents you, the citizens of Guthrie and Logan County. Join us as we go behind the scenes at the state capitol and talk with each of them about what they do, how they do it, and why. First, we start with Guthrie native Senator A.J. Griffin, first elected to the state Senate District 20 seat in 2012.
I was recruited to run for office by the chamber board that was sitting at that time whenever we had an opening in District 20. So it was a brand new Senate district, and it looked like that the largest population base in this new district was Guthrie. And it's turned out that Guthrie and then, of course, some of the growth in South Logan County represent the vast majority of population. So looked for someone from Guthrie who loved Guthrie and cared about Guthrie and had served Guthrie in lots of different capacities. I'd never really thought about running for office, but expected my husband to put a nix on the idea whenever I went to ask. But instead he said that he thought that was a good fit for my skills, and it was a time in our family's life where it was possible, and decided to try it. I love the work that we do in policy. I get frustrated with politics like I think most Americans do whenever we're not necessarily making decisions based on what we should be, but on other factors. But I love the work in policy, and I spend most of my time working on policy around kids and families. I dabble in energy policy, and my district's really diverse when it comes to electric generation and the way we sell electric power. So I'm the vice chair of the Energy Committee, so I spend a lot of time on those things as well, mostly learning the business. And energy is, of course, our most important industry in the state, and it drives our economy for good and for bad whenever things aren't going well. So enjoy the work, and it's a great way to serve your community. In the Senate, we represent very large districts with a lot of people. I mean, it's over 75,000 people that reside in the 20th Senate District. It's 4 counties. It stretches from west of Kingfisher all the way to the Keystone Lake. I have the 918 area, the 580 area code, and the 405 area code in my district. So it's very, very diverse, and having one person casting yes and no votes to try to represent 75,000 people is probably the biggest challenge, and making sure that everybody has equal representation, that I listen to every single side of every issue, both those that are aligned with my party and those that aren't aligned with my party, and I take that very, very seriously to make sure that both sides are at least heard, and that whenever I cast a vote, that it takes everybody's opinion into account. We do really kind of start to look and sound like our districts. Representative Piper's district is very different than Representative Murphy's district, although big chunks of them both lie within my district, which is very different. I have 5 other House of Representatives members that also overlap with my district. So the people need to understand that whenever you put all of these pieces together, their voice is represented in there somewhere. And these two gentlemen are great partners. We work on lots of things together. We share ideas, we share concerns. We don't always agree necessarily because of the differences in the district, difference between being a Senate district and being a House district. The House members, they claim to be closer to the people because the districts are so much smaller and they have fewer people that they're responsible for representing. And so we get a little more diversity in opinion in the House of Representatives than we do in the Senate. We have larger districts, more people. We also run for every 4 years, so we get to probably approach things a little more systematically in the Senate, not have to move quite so quickly.
Next is Representative of District 38, John Pfeiffer, who started his legislative career in 2014.
I view my main job up here is to kind of look after rural Oklahoma. I cover parts of 5 different counties, and rough count, I have about 10 stoplights in all of my pretty big district. So my job up here is to look after the rural part of Oklahoma. A lot of times, it's a lot of campaign rhetoric, but it's not always. It's always still true. Up here at the state capitol, we don't always have divides necessarily on party lines as much as we kind of have divides urban versus rural lines. And I try to bring a voice to rural Oklahoma on everything from agriculture issues to energy issues to education issues. In education, it seems to be especially important when we're talking about schools that are graduating, several hundred kids to most of the schools in my district that graduate. I think the biggest last year graduated, definitely Guthrie, but my second biggest, Blackwell, graduated around 60, and my smallest graduated 3. So trying to find a good balance and just give rural Oklahoma a voice is kind of how I view my job up here. My district kind of goes along with the state, energy and agriculture. They're also the 2 biggest economic drivers in my district. We all know, the old saying, as the oil patch goes, so goes Oklahoma, and it's true, especially in my district. There used to be a lot of drilling activity, now there's not. I rise and fall with the oil and ag industry in the state of Oklahoma, and my constituents know that, and I can relate to them. And this isn't the first time this kind of thing's happened. It happened in the 80s, it's happened several times before then. All we can do is continue to set up an environment where we can continue to encourage new business in the state of Oklahoma so that we don't have these drastic turns every time oil falls. Back in the 80s, when this happened the last time, 1 in 6 jobs in the state of Oklahoma was directly related to the energy sector. Now I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 15. So we have diversified the economy in Oklahoma. Nobody really expected oil to fall quite as rapidly and dramatically as it has, which is why we've seen kind of the trouble we're in right now. But if we can continue to be a strong economic driver state, a state that encourages businesses of all sizes to come in here and take up, hopefully we can one day eventually smooth out these highs and lows that have just checkered Oklahoma's past, and it's happened a myriad of times. It's the one thing when I got elected and I was running for office, we still had $90 oil. And it was a thing that I heard on the doorstep and in town hall meetings a lot from people who have been through this thing before. They all kept saying, listen, don't repeat what happened in the 80s. And we did. It's just one of those things. It's an easy habit to kind of fall into, and hopefully long term we can diversify this state enough that we can smooth out some of these peaks and valleys.
Next is Representative Jason Murphey, who was elected in 2007 to represent District 31.
When I initially campaigned for this position and held office for the first few years, I was the only member of the Logan County delegation, the only person from Guthrie, and that was the status quo for many, many years. But over the years, Logan County is experiencing rapid growth. Today there are 3 of us in the legislature, 3 state officials who consist of the Logan County delegation. And as such, it gives us allies in working on those issues that are important to our area, to dealing with the area's high growth, and to representing the values and the principles of our shared constituency. Working with Senator Griffin gives us an ally in the Senate who is from our area. And then Representative Pfeiffer has come into the legislature here recently. We serve on the same committees. We formed a great relationship, and it's always been enjoyable to be able to work with someone else who calls Logan County home. And that's just a byproduct of Logan County's rapid growth. It's one of the fastest growing counties in Oklahoma, and as such, our Logan County delegation is now 3 times bigger than it was when I started, and it will continue to grow in the future, I suspect. In down budget times, like right now, I like to emphasize the positive. And so there's a lot of negative news regarding the state budget, but based on my experience here, I've seen that it's during the down times that inefficiencies and waste are addressed. State leaders do the right thing in the down times because they're forced to do it. When the government has too much money or is continuing to bring in more money, or taxes go up and they bring in more money, inefficiencies and waste quickly follow. But the down cycle is just as necessary as a forest fire is in a forest. It's what cleans out the clutter. It's what allows there to be growth in the future in that environment. And that's a little bit the same way in state government. It's the down budget cycle that forces state leaders to do the right thing, and that clears out that waste and inefficiency and creates a healthy ecosystem for the future. I've always felt a calling to advocate for the use of technology to make government more transparent and less costly to the taxpayer. And that's a motivating factor for me. As I look back on the time spent here, I tend to judge success by what initiatives I've been able to lead which have tangibly cut the cost to the taxpayer. That's what motivates me. That's what I can look back on my time in Guthrie City Council and see some success in that respect. And it's the same in state office as well. The initiatives that I've been able to be a part of that I can point to that make government more transparent than ever before or less costly are the ones that I can look back on and say, okay, I fulfilled my commitment to the voters and those principles and values that are our shared contract.
I hope you join us March 15th for the Roundup.